the studio today, we are joined by Crispin Mike, who is the headmaster for Heritage School. And we are going to be discussing education, and we're going to be discussing some of the pros and cons about what is happening, obviously, in the new age and the new way of education. Crispin, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Very good to have you on the show today.
No, thank you very much for bringing me here.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
We're excited. And, you know, I did say we are getting ready for back to school next week, just preparing for everything. And, you know, now we're talking about the 8,000 schools. Maybe we can start there about the ratios. You know, how does that affect our pupils and our children in this day and age?
I mean, when you look at it, firstly, you think of the amount of marking that the teachers have to go through, because critical thinking is very important, and when children give feedback to teachers, it's quite important. So when the teacher-pupil ratio goes down, it means that the marking is also reduced for the teachers. And secondly, you also look at the individual attention that the children need. It means that if a teacher has got 20 in the class, he's got time for the individual differences, because remember, the classes are inclusive, so
yes,
there are all sorts of challenges that you have with different students, and you need time for all individual students. So the lesser they are, obviously, the better it is.
The better the situation.
When it's a big number.
Yeah, that's good. And obviously now coming back to, you know, how we are navigating in the new age world, there's the issue of artificial intelligence, and it's creeping into the schools as well. And how has that influenced how a child kind of performs as an individual for preparing them for society?
Look, when we need to start by looking at the fundamentals and the skills that the 21st century learner needs. And there are 6 C's, and the most important ones there, I mean, I could go on, but we need to look at critical thinking, we need to look at creativity, character, communication, collaboration. Those are quite important skills that the 21st century learner needs, and we now need to look at them in the perspective of AI that we have today. So the first thing is, AI has given us readily available information. I mean, long back you used to go into the library to try and get information. It would take you ages to get that. I think with AI, you can get information readily. I mean, just a click of a button and you get whatever you need. But what it has also done, which is quite negative, is although AI was created of a creative mind, it is killing the same creativity with our younger ones. We are seeing a lot of plagiarism where they just take information as it is and then hand it into teachers, and there's very little creativity that is coming in. I mean, you look at even sometimes you tell students to do a speech where their parents, and they just take it off AI, and that is killing creativity. Then we look at critical thinking. You know, although AI was born of a creative mind and somebody that wanted to solve today's problems, our children today are very AI dependent, and I'm saying that they are also coded, and some of them can't operate outside what has been coded in their minds, and yet we want them to solve today's problems. We want them to be entrepreneurs. There's lots of diversification within the 21st century, but they are failing to adapt because they have been so AI dependent, and they don't have an independent mind. And those are some of the negatives that we are seeing from the education sector.
And, you know, there's also, I mean, that is a negative. On the teacher's perspective, is AI going to replace the teacher? Say in 5 years, 10 years' time, how is this structure looking in our schools?
Let's go back to those C's. And one of them is character. I think one of the distortions that societies have is to think that the teacher is there to give information. We are forgetting that character is of utmost importance within the century. I mean, as Zimbabweans, we can already see that you talk of Farmer 2K and everyone laughs. So robots can come into the class, I'm quite sure, and give information. But do they have the emotional intelligence? Can they be coded to deal with day-to-day issues? I mean, you get into a class one day and the child is crying, they're crying because of A, B, C, D that has happened at home. Are those codes going to be available in a computer to deal with those emotional aspects, to deal with the character aspects of the child? Unfortunately, I doubt that will happen. So we still need the human being to come in and make sure that besides being the source of information, besides being the facilitator of learning, they also need to build our children You know, they say it takes a whole village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And if you look at our situation in our schools, how many dads, aunts, and do we have? And they are very important in also looking at character, which is one of the skills that our learners need.
Right. Now, looking at the capacitation of the teacher, now the AI has come in, and of course, kids somewhat more akin to artificial intelligence in this drawn in contrast to the older generation, which are some of our teachers. How is the situation on the ground, and as far as that issue is concerned? Are the teachers sometimes not being taken advantage of by these kids, which are more akin to artificial intelligence?
Definitely, that's happening. You find that, like I've said before, you find that there's a lot of plagiarism that is coming in, and some teachers don't even know about ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So a child takes work from ChatGPT and just hands it in, and the teacher thinks that the child has done very well. But you see, in some instances, you have anti-plagiarism software that people can use. But like you were saying, I don't think we are all at the same level. It now depends, but our staff also have to move with the time, because we've got to live within the century. And obviously, staff developments will definitely help to get the teachers abreast with what is happening with AI, because there are also good things in some programs that are also quite good. I mean, you could have a very interesting lesson with videos, etc., coming from AI, and our teachers also have to embrace that, but also taking into cognizance that we should continue to allow creative minds and allow problem solving with the information that we get from AI.
Right. That's good. And talking about the issue of extra lessons, we have our children who come to school for 3 months and then they got a month off, but they were pushing our children to go for extra lessons. How do you think this is affecting our children?
So, to me, I will always go back to the skills that we need. And critical thinking. We are creating with the extra lessons. You have children that have extra lessons from the first day of the holiday to the last. And I'm thinking we are creating children that are overtaught.
Right.
And very teacher dependent. Right? Without the teacher, they cannot operate. We need to teach children and allow that individual study and allow the individual learning, because that is where the creativity, that is where the critical thinking skills come from. But if we are always going to make sure that there is a teacher with a child all the time, we are bringing in what I call teacher dependency syndrome. You take away the teacher and then you take away the whole child. They cannot operate without that support. And we need to also understand that school prepares learners for life after school. You now go to university, and some of the children that are going through extra lessons are 3-4 months away from going to university. Do universities have extra lessons?
No, we don't.
Because the whole basis of school is to prepare learners for life after school. And our upper sixes are 6 months away from that, 4 months away from that. And you go to some of our lecturers today in the universities, they've come back with some feedback to say, your children cannot operate by themselves. And
they're lazy.
They are lazy, and some of it is, like you have said, children want parents to pay. You pay for extra lessons. They sit there and then they listen, and the teacher does everything for them. If A is this, B goes that way, D goes that way, F goes that way. Did you hear? Yes. If B goes this way, and they don't want to sit and read books. They don't want to sit and discuss with other schoolmates. Collaboration and collaborate with other schoolmates. I still remember when we were young, we had one question paper, we would discuss, and everyone would bring in their own ideas, teach our way, and we could solve a lot of problems by ourselves. And that made us have creative minds. But now, you look at this kind of child who's been teacher dependent, you bring them onto the workplace, and they probably need to be given every single instruction. If anything is not given as an instruction, they cannot operate within within that environment. And then we need the entrepreneurs in the country. How do we create entrepreneurs when we don't have independent thinkers and creative minds?
Right. So if that question is very important, and the same question I will pose is, how are you then improving in-classroom learning for these children not to then go for these extra lessons and to help with their critical thinking and to prepare them also for that entrepreneurial world?
The role of the teacher has changed.
Okay.
The teacher is not there to give information. The teacher is there to facilitate learning. That's how we are changing. And children have to be given tasks that they do by themselves. They have to do projects. They have to also collaborate and do presentations in classes. So the whole classroom situation is changing so that they own the learning part and not the teacher, because they are the ones that are going to operate within our societies and not the teacher. So we need to bring in that independence. We need to promote that kind of situation where the children themselves own the learning.
Right. Now, children basically are bouncing off teachers and parents at home. So they come from parents and then they go to school where you find teachers. Now, between these, now still on artificial intelligence, it's what would be your message to parents? Because children, and with the advent of artificial intelligence, they can ask their parents to pay or subscribe for Quillbot, to subscribe for Phrase.io. All they simply do is feed the application with information. It will do whatever that they ask. If you want an article, a 34-page article, it will write it for you. You can actually edit it and humanize it. That's artificial intelligence. But that's the parent who is paying for this. And from what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, from what you're saying, that's actually killing the child. Now, what would be your message to the parents in as far as that is concerned?
What my message would be is, we still have textbooks. We still have textbooks. We still have newspapers. You know, we still have very formalized education aspects, magazines, etc. We still need our children to go back to those and not only be dependent on AI. And let's also remember that whilst you are talking of all those programs, there are also detrimental programs for children on AI. You know, you get. I got to a situation where I think a child was talking to a robot, and they had a relationship with the robot. You know, and the robot would feed this child with a lot of negatives, and this was affecting the behavior of that child. And so some of the societal problems that we are facing with our children are also coming from the same gadgets, from the same AI. So we need obviously to monitor and get back sometimes to go back to basics. You know, we still have textbooks. Why are we not using them? You know, publishers are still printing textbooks. And we also need to understand that as parents, we need to see what our children are using online and monitor and bring in restrictions to what they use online, and not just leave them to gadgets. The gadgets as well are very detrimental, and some children are hooked to them and they spend 5-6 hours on them, and some of it is not productive at all.
All right. Crispin, we've come to the end of our interview with you this morning, but there's so much more that we can actually know. How do we, is there a platform that we can maybe ask questions, maybe on your platform that, you know, parents can ask how to best to do to raise children pertaining to teachers and AI and all sorts?
I mean, I've got a Facebook page,
okay,
which goes by Crispin Mike,
okay,
and they can contact me on that Facebook page, or sometimes my personal email, which is crispinmike@gmail.com.
Excellent.
And readily available
for that.
For that. I mean, we want to see our 21st century children succeed in our country.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Crispin, for joining us on Morning Rush. We do hope that our children are going to be in safe hands out there.